If it changed or it just fit. I thought someone was coming in the door. Listen, if someone does come in the door, I'm going to probably say to Erodi, well, Erodi, why don't you come tell us about your experience in the last campground you were in? And since I just told you mine, and he'll come sit here and he'll start talking about his experience in the last campground that he was in. Okay, we have to have certain little contingency plans. Okay, helpers, what was that other thing that I left out from yesterday? Okay, I said I would follow through on the jail thing. You got more than you bargained for on that one. And the analogy of breaking the horse. Oh, I cannot break your horse. I don't want to break your horse. You have to break it. If you don't want to break it, it isn't going to be broken. And you have to be a persistent cowboy that is going to break that horse and not let it have its own way in any department. You know, if I could just have you just perceive for a moment what it feels like. You know, we spoke for a moment about time, how time changes. When you see things in the human world, human details, and your brain is going, because you're going down the road and you're seeing those people over there, and you're seeing those trees over there, and you're seeing that creek down there, and you're seeing all these, and the smoke comes up, and you're letting your brain be cluttered. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be unkeen, but you need to learn to filter. You need to learn not to pay attention to things that have no significance to you, that are only clutter. A lot of you still unknowingly think that keenness is to be aware of every little thing, even at the human level of awareness. And you need to filter. You need to see less. That's like if your vehicle was once attracted to certain kinds of vehicles, then one of the first things you need to learn is to, when it sees a vehicle that might have been attracted to it, immediately looks away. And then it slides in a blank card, and even if it looks back at that vehicle, it doesn't even see that vehicle anymore, just sees that blank card. Because it is learning that discipline. Now, the more you filter out extraneous information, then the more time changes for you. Because you're in more of a listening mode for more significant information, and you're more concerned with what does T and Doe, what do T and Doe have in mind for me today? What would they have me doing now? If I was sitting with them beside them in a car or sitting in a room and I was saying to them, how would you have me spend my time today? And I'd say, well, how do you want to spend your time? You say, no, I really want to know how you would have me spend my time today. Then I would probably get some instruction to tell you how you might spend your time. But if you're thinking that way, if you would not let thoughts into your head that you would be embarrassed to come out your mouth, you would go miles and miles and miles at accelerated pace in eliminating time. Now, when you know, time and distance are synonymous. You know, you can travel great distances as you do not relate to lengthened linear time. It's just like if it is the next level mind that is aware of what's going on here, then I am not aware of any of the vehicular concerns. I am not perceiving a perishable attitude or aches and pains, or I'm having to systematically treat the fuel needs of the vehicle, systematically clean the vehicle, systematically put wardrobe on the vehicle, and so forth, because it's procedure to do so. The next level lives by procedure. There are procedures upon procedures upon procedures. If you don't like procedures, you're in trouble. You're going to have to go break that horse. Because the next level lives by procedures. And you will learn, if you want to go in the right direction, you will learn to love procedures even when at times procedures seem to be irrelevant. But you will like, and if you really try, you will see how that procedure that you might have thought was an irrelevant procedure, you can see the value of it. So if you're living by procedures rather than by time capsule activity of the vehicle and the emissions of the brain, then it's the mind of the next level that's beginning to view through here, and it's only going to view what your older member would view. So, because the horse is going to view a different thing than the older member would view, right? Try to take over that animal. Try to take the animal out of that animal. Try to make it as if it is an inanimate object that is just a suit of clothes. It is just a covering. It is just protection. It is just like cloth, nothing more. And you care for it that way. It doesn't have feelings of a nature that an animal would have. It has feelings. Now don't misunderstand me. The next level has feelings far greater than a human could have feelings. No, human love is by next level standards petty and low and animal in nature. Because next level caring and concern. We'll even take the fact that the next level does not need any of us, but will go through the hell that they go through to try to nurture us if we want to be nurtured. If you don't think that next level members go through hell every time they come into a human civilization in order to try to offer a chance for some to receive next level nourishment and a way out, even to become children in that kingdom, to take them through that process, boy, if that isn't love, I don't know what it is. Now, if what you really tune into is the human type love, then you don't belong here. Or your vehicle is having its way. Okay, Benoni, you had your hand up a moment ago. Yes. Riccoti has, we don't have any secrets in this classroom. Riccoti's been in the classroom several times. And Riccoti is determined to not waste his energy in this classroom. And I want to give to Riccoti everything I can possibly give to him to have him succeed. And I want you to give to him. Now, I'm using Riccoti as an example. But Riccoti also is going to have to learn differently from it. The reason I'm using him as an example is because what I'm about to tell you that Riccoti deals with, many of you deal with as well. We have a procedure that says we expose things daily. If you've read our offense list, if we're dealing with something of doubt or difficulty or not liking the way somebody did something, or wonder why somebody, or jealousy of it, if you're embarrassed to expose those petty feelings of your horse, and then the next day you're embarrassed to expose more petty feelings of your horse, and then the next day and so forth, pretty soon you've got a train load of things that did not get surfaced. And the horse jumps over the fence and knocks down the post on the way out. Because it did not expose each little thing as it came along. You can't don't be embarrassed. Don't say, well, that's such a little thing. Like, Joe would go crazy if Joe knew I was eating that. That's asinine. I wouldn't tell Joe I was eating that. Or even my partner. You're going to have to take those little things and expose them. It's like when you confess before man, does good things. Now, with an end. When you confess in your notes and links, or with your partner, of the thoughts that you have had, the things that you have dealt with, whether are physical actions that you took, or some bad thought that you had about links, or about some classmate, or you wondered this, or you wondered that, and it was inappropriate, don't hide it. Don't swallow it. And don't say, well, that's not important. That's not important enough to bring up. Or I would be too embarrassed to bring that up. You're going to have to get past embarrassment. I would rather you bring up things that aren't even worth bringing up and have me say, oh, that's stupid. Don't bring that up. You know, I'd rather you bring up everything and just plague me to death with bringing up crazy things than to let things mount and mount and mount because you're afraid to bring them up. Or you feel like it's foolish to bring them up. You don't want to look bad. You know how you look bad in your older member's eyes? By not bringing things up. You don't look bad by doing something inappropriate or having an inappropriate thought and exposing it, and then we deal with it. And we learn to get rid of it. So, learn to get past, if your vehicle is one that has to deal with embarrassment and shame about exposing things and not wanting certainly to reveal certain thoughts that could be so, my goodness, that would be awful to tell, how I had trouble with this concept or that thought or why so-and-so is an overseer or, somebody else is such a bad driver, I just can't stand to get in the car with him. Or these curse words that went through my head when I was doing such and such task here. Anything that you can't imagine your older member doing is something that needs to be exposed. You might find sometimes that some of the things you thought were so awful that when you expose them, I might say, well, I probably would have done that too. I might have said that too. I might have even said some dirty word in a certain sense like that, or at least thought it. You follow what I'm saying? It is true that my older member has more track record at control and developing strength than I have. And that has to be the case. I still make mistakes. I still not only disappoint myself, I disappoint my older members. I still, by my standards, fail miserably regularly by the standards that I measure because I know where my older member is. I know what it is to expose. I know what it is to keep your laundry clean and stay clean. So, I think Riccoti knows exactly what I'm talking about. But he thinks, oh, that's so silly to bring that up. That's awful to bring that up. And then they mount, And, or another thing that we can deal with is we can just, like a horse sometimes, and this is a very good analogy, because a horse can just get so restless sometimes. Just so restless, because it's so used to running in the wild when it wants to run in the wild. Just running in the wild. Tell me when you know to run in the wild. And we'll get a bicycle, or we'll get we'll all start running in place, or we'll go around the block 10 times every day for a week until you have done enough running. I'm serious. We can work it out. You tell me what it is that you're dealing with, and we'll work it out. Okay. Let's see. Good. Nice Star Trek's been on half hour. Okay. Oh, I know a point that students have to deal with. And particularly, I think, like we've had students at times, in order to keep waters calm in their past, we'll have students say, well, or maybe your teachers will come and say, you want to write your vehicle's ex-spouse or parents a note or something and let them know that you're okay and you're doing what you want to do, and all to try to calm things. And even at times we've gotten instruction to have people get on the telephone and call on them. A lot of times the first call or two was really rough because all they hear is, "Well, you ain't gonna come to your senses and get home and get out and get on call." And that's hard to take, because your vehicle loves those people, and you know that that person that's on the other end of the line is saying that because they love that vehicle that you're occupying. But you know that you're not that vehicle. You know that you took over that vehicle, that it is yours, you're borrowing it for the time that you're here, but that other plants suffer when part of its plant has been pulled away from it. And so we have to try to keep that calm. But one thing we deal with a lot with plants that hurt when your plant is taken from the group plant is they think that how could you be so selfish as to do this? Why aren't you doing something for the world? Why aren't you doing something for humanity? Does the kingdom of God do anything for the world and humanity when the kingdom of God made it, designed it, cares for it? Everything that is in it came from the kingdom of God. And now you're trying to become a servant in that kingdom. Your attention has to go entirely to that team. It's funny that, a human family can let go of one of its members to go over to Germany and work on an astronaut program or work on some startling scientific invention, and they don't have time for it. They just, we never see John, we never hear from him because he's involved in a very important mission for the government, or he's in Antarctica, or he's someplace else. We never hear from him, but boy, he's wonderful. And, they just praise him and praise him and praise him. Because he's giving his whole time to a project that he's interested in. But because of the lower forces, we're giving our whole time to Satan. We're giving our whole time to anti-family, to anti-God in their eyes, and anti-humanitarian. When you are not the horse, you don't need to run with the horses. In fact, you want to not even relate to any other horses. You don't even want to remember that you are wearing a horse. You're going to try to change that horse so that you no longer even call it a horse, and it begins to hold its head up because it's proud that you don't call it a horse. You don't even have to call it anything anymore because it's just an extension of you. And it relates to your mind, not you're relating to its mind. And your new mind is not full of that vehicular emanations or its genetic package or its education. It's relating to what has been given to you by the next level. That new mind. When this surpasses all human logic, and it's the neatest, simplest little thing that exists, and it's fantastic to me. When they say that you become a new creature, the idea that you abort human programming, abort human behavior, human interpretations, human judgment, everything the way that a human or the vehicle would look at things, and you're taking in the thinking, the behavior, the programming, the mind of the next level. When you have that mind of the next level in you, and it is you because it's all that is in your container, or it's certainly 51%, and increasing daily. If it's 51%, you should be identifying with it, and it's increasing daily. Then you can, you can in all honesty, then suddenly you're saying, I am of the next level. I came from the next level. Because you did. Because you are that mind that came from that next level. Now you can't find that in human logic. And yet that is a fact, that you are a new creature. You are that mind that came from the next level. You are on that vine of the next level. You have grafted to that vine. You are from another kingdom level. Not just the mind, because all you identify with is that mind. Then that creature is no longer a creature of this planet. You were simply wearing a creature of this planet, and even bringing it under control of that next level mind, that when it is you and you identify as it, you are a new creature and from that kingdom level. And you begin to perceive things as a member of that next level from that next level. Now, and this is necessary. This is absolutely necessary. So, because there should not be a loss of consciousness for a student that's leaving this world and going to the next level. There should not be a loss of consciousness. You should be able to fit right in. Whether they take that house off of you and put you in another one, you will not lose consciousness. You will have exactly the same consciousness. So isn't it going to be a better match for you if you have shut up all of the emanations of the plant you're wearing? So that when you move into a plant that has no emanation, there's no change. It's not suddenly. The one thing that there will be a change is that as long as you're here, the next level keeps sending the ones to you for you to box. And when you're out of here, you don't have to box. But you'll be boxing at a different level altogether. Because then you will have to grow only by your desire for growth, and your desire for service, and your desire for learning. And you will suffer because of trying to learn how to increase that thirst and that desire to grow. You'll be hunting for every possible way that you could please older members of the next level so that you could be of more use. If that is not in motion, you'll sit like a bump on a bench, because they're going to use servants who like service and who are always saying, is there anything I can do? Is there anything that I am in control enough that can be worth anything to you? And there are all kinds of tasks that you can do. And many of them, believe it or not, are menial tasks. I don't know of any of them that require strings on a harp or sitting on clouds. Or that you have to be able to carry a tune. Okay. Selfishness. Don't let somebody tell you you're being selfish. The irony is, what you're doing is ridding yourself of selfishness. And yet they see you as selfish because you're working on your own change. You're not really working on your own change. You're working to rid yourself of self in order to be a part of a team, a crew, a vine, serving in the next level. Even though we strive for that, and we would even like to be robots for the next level if we could, they don't let us. They don't ever let us lose our identity or our volition or our capacity to even go alive, or to feel independent or too big for our britches. That capacity stays with us no matter where your station goes in the next level. Oh, on that same mind business. Some of you get confused when there's a discussion of, oh, you're saying that your older member was the same mind that was in Jesus? Get this straight. There's something wrong with dough, and there would be something wrong with that container that was the mind, that container that was in Jesus, and that mind, and that combination of that mind with the container that was in Jesus, if that mind would come back saying, I'm Jesus. I'm insisting that you accept me as Jesus. That means that that individual wants to be personally recognized. And that's contrary to next level ways at the start. And if that individual mind has grown any, it does not want to be identified as something separate. The reality exists that when Jesus' Father spoke through that vehicle that was called Jesus and said, I will return, I will come and take those who have overcome the world and they will go with me, that is happening. That is happening. We are a part of that. We are that. And that's hard to imagine. Because that's really an adjustment to accept that that's happening. That's a very difficult adjustment to accept that. But it doesn't matter which identity or what identity, he, Jesus, and don't Jesus. That's human talk. That's human identification. The same mind that was in Jesus is in me. But you've got to take it from where I'm coming from. Not from the human interpretation. I'll go one further and say that the mind that is in me is beyond the mind that was in Jesus. Because we are further along. We have grown since then. The mind that is in you has grown from when you last related to members of the next level present on this planet. I don't know. I can't go down the line and say Sunodi was on this planet so many times and related to so many members from the next level and, has had so many lifetimes. And we don't do life readings in this class. It doesn't matter. The possibility, the likelihood is that all of you related to members of the next level prior to this time. How many times is irrelevant. Even if you did not relate to the next level prior to this time, and the next level this time went out and picked you and put a chip in you and started nourishing you. 16. There's a. Is it a comet? Asteroid. It's broken up into a stream of asteroids that are going right into the center of July the 16th. And there are rumors that the scientists aren't about to tell all of the effects that it has on this planet, weather circumstances, environment. I think it's certainly a part of what's happening there. You think we're okay? Thank you, everybody. Would this be okay? Sure. Did you say the goal is drafting or something over there? I just wait for temperature. Are you cool? No. I'm fine. Are you okay, cool? No. Are you okay? No. Okay. Because it's just that I get so worked up, I get too warm. Maybe I can make it a little more slowly.
I'm more concerned with your comfortability.
Well, let's have a little ventilation. Question?
I might be wrong, but you were at the point in the whole class positive ready to myself, whereas this time, even if not.
Oh, and okay. And if it's possible that some received a deposit of recognition and started being nourished in the lifetime of this vehicle, of what relevance is it? Of what importance is it? The only thing that's important is what we do with the time we have with the animal we're bearing. Because that's what makes us in better shape for service. Okay? Let's see what there's some other little things to put on here. I think I mentioned that only the strong will survive. It really takes a lot of effort. Well, you can do it. The thing I was talking about too when we were using Lakota as an example, let your classmates and let me participate in your difficulties. Let us help you with them. Let us get you past them. If you don't, then we can't do anything. And we can't interfere with you if you choose not to. If you say, leave me alone, I want out of here, we may weep for you, but we have to open the door and say, okay, you're out here. But if you want to succeed at this, then ask and involve us in helping you in your getting control of your mechanism and your advancement in this. Becoming this new creature is not an easy task, but it's a fantastic one. And it begins to feel so good when the things that used to cause you trouble, you know that you've got lead in your boxing gloves. And you can knock them out the first whang. And even if they come back, that you've got more strength than you had last time, and if it takes knocking them and knocking them and knocking them, it's like, what's big about this? Doesn't amount to anything. I can handle it. It's no test for it. What's interesting, this is just a little side issue. It's interesting that in our classroom, a lot of the next level seems to choose an assortment of horses, go up and make the topic, to see what they go through in the changeover process. And a lot of times it's easier for what humans would call less refined vehicles to make changes than vehicles that might appear to be more refined. It's funny that addictions are not confined to sex, drugs, food. Addictions can be addictions in concept, addictions in perception, addictions in a certain structure of belief system that can give. Some people aren't comfortable unless they have a certain structure that is supportive of them. And to let that structure fall apart, board by board, until there is none of it there, is a very difficult process for some. That's why some of the vehicles by human standards that may have had opportunities to become more refined, maybe more education, maybe seen more of the world, maybe better vocabulary, maybe learned a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that, might find it more difficult than some who didn't have those things to become addicted to, didn't have that to deal with. But at the same time, those less refined have to deal with learning to become refined by next level standards. Learning to refine all kinds of behavior and control in ways far more demanding than refinement in the human world. I heard a little preacher the other day, maybe I told you this, as we were driving through L.A. Oh, this was, did I tell you about this little riding through L.A. and this preacher came on and saying, he had just written a book saying that Jesus was coming in 94. And he was saying that, of course he could tell that, it can all be over, whatever it was by his concept. And he used the term that we have to be of a broken spirit if we expect and yield to the will of God and yield to the kingdom of God if we expect to be able to serve it. And it's interesting because at the same time we were hearing that, we were thinking about what it takes to break that spirit of the animal that we're wearing and make it become refined clothing. I think I spoke a moment last night on this one, but I have to say it again because we don't know what the next level has labeled the experiment of putting deposits in creatures that then give them recognition of next level information and make them have a chance to be thirsty for it and then exert the will to either continue that thirst or to say, I don't want that, and back off. But I feel like even the ones that are picked to even have that first deposit, even all that deposit does is get you in the door. It's like if you're going to a conference, going to a big convention or something, that ticket just gets you in the door. But what you're going to do while you're in there has nothing related to that ticket. It just got you in the door. But I still believe that even getting that little deposit made anybody who received that deposit unbelievably lucky, fortunate, blessed. I can't think of any word that means as lucky as that. And then for the next level to not have to, but choose to nourish that. The Christians say that Jesus shed his blood so that you might be saved. And that he was the sacrifice, that you don't have to be sacrificed. Well, in some senses of the word, there's a lot of truth to that. Because Jesus gave up his next level vehicle, came and suffered all things, had to even take over a human animal. He didn't have to do it. He had done that before. He then had to have the world turn against him, even destroy his vehicle, or turn such anger as to even supposedly put it to death. But he was not the vehicle, so he couldn't be put to death. He was not the vehicle. He could not be put to death. The vehicle had become nothing but a true cross. Now, whether or not Jesus in body walked out of the tomb is irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. When I hear Gene Scott say, if there was not a resurrection of Jesus, I'd throw my Christianity away. If Jesus didn't physically resurrect, that my whole belief in the concept of Christianity is because Jesus physically resurrected. He doesn't even know what the next level is all about. To think in terms of the value of the physical resurrection. I'll say this, Jesus physically resurrected, but it was not his body. It was not the flesh body. It was the body that soul had become that could not be put to death. The soul is not ether. The soul is not simply breath. The soul is physical. It is a container that has density that can be measured. It has density like when a suit of clothes is taken off of it, and another suit of clothes is put on it. It takes on the shape of the new creature, of that soul. Humans cannot measure it. It would be very simple to measure by next level terms. Now, you may think I'm, kind of far out here making some pretty bold statements like this. And this may not be entirely accurate. As far as I can tell, it is accurate. As far as my awareness of He's awareness, it is accurate. That it becomes a container that has density and that has form, and that form is the same form that other members of the next level have. Even though one might be taller, one might be shorter, one might be broader, longer feet, longer fingers. That's irrelevant. That depends on how their soul is formed. The next level has a lot of tasks where they may want some vehicles of different size and different capacity. Now here's a little far out idea that we've had fun thinking about at times. We have even wondered if there are not living spacecrafts. Living spacecrafts. Spacecrafts that whose function are creatures. In other words, can that same soul, that same mind take on, here goes shapeshifters, take on the form of a spacecraft, take on the brain of a spacecraft, take on, even though it can be living, pulsating, not human-type flesh, but like next level type flesh. It can be an object that can change, and change its frequency, so that its molecular structure is changed. It's interesting that Daniel Fry, in his experience from White Sands to New York and back, kept speaking to the spacecraft, and the spacecraft kept speaking back to him. And at times he wondered if it wasn't a living creature. There have been reports of people aboard spacecraft that seem to be living creatures. It was interesting, I can't remember the name of that film now, that there was a spacecraft under the sea. Yes, I guess it was. That was an interesting concept. If the next level can make creatures like these, who's to say the limits of their molds? I mean, what they can do. And why wouldn't they have someone enjoy serving them in that way as a transport mechanism? And think of the interest in training and programming it would take to serve in that capacity. I don't think it's sci-fi. Might be. It's irrelevant.
I've never really known this clearly. Maybe information's not available and it's not relevant, but when Jesus took that body with him, which apparently he used to demonstrate to the disciples.
We do not know that that's true. This is what the New Testament says that he did. We do not know that that's true. I hate to say it, but I firmly believe that a great deal of the material in the New Testament is material that was embellished by the writers and the ways and the beliefs and the legends of the people. In Jesus' time and in times prior to that and past that, every significant person had a resurrection. Muhammad ascended in the spot where the Dome of the Rock is. Every ascension was a way of speaking of what happens to your religious leader. The Buddha, in the Wesak festival, descends and ascends once a year in that celebration, according to the Buddhists. And sometimes he may not come, but he usually comes. Whatever the day is in May when that occurs in a certain valley. But what I'm saying is that a lot of things that are in the record are not necessarily reliable. I feel that there's a great deal of truth in in this little interpretation that the Jesus, what's the name of the group? Jesus Seminar. The book that they recently put out. I feel that there's a great deal of truth in that. That's all of the class members should have a chance to study that and look at that. They go through all of the so-called sayings of Jesus, and from the best of their research, say he probably said this, or he might have said something like this, or we doubt that he said this at all. It was just passed on, it said, because it's like that thing that and T and I have used this example with you many times. If you went to Christ of the Desert Monastery in New Mexico, there's a monk there named Francis who will tell you that T and Joe appeared before him out of nowhere and disappeared in the same way. And yet it wasn't so. But someone could have recorded it, that he said it, and it could be documented. It could go down in history as a document. You follow what I'm saying? There are people, what's that?
I'm not sure. I got that question out, but I'm not sure what you're saying is probably not true of what happened after the resurrection.
No, I'm saying we do not know whether he wore that physical shell after the great experience. It's irrelevant. He